Hello humans, I'm Johannes from Dong Kong. We have a new EP out, it's called Like You Say EP on Confession. And in this video I will show you how I made the chord sound from the drop. Okay, so let's have a look at Serum. We have only one oscillator, oscillator A, one octave up, and basic shapes. Turn it to saw. And now the most important thing comes into play, and that's the LFO. You have to recreate this curve because it's making the whole sound, the whole movement of the sound. I can show you if I just... So recreate this, it's set to a half and to trigger. Put the level all the way down and just put the LFO on there and just all the way up. I'm all the way up! Now it sounds like this. Also pretty cool sound. Sounds more like a flumy, clean saw sound. Then I added some noise oscillator to make it more interesting. And it's the wavetable from Virtual Right, X tonal. Pitch all the way up. All the way up! And level same as with oscillator A. Just put the LFO on it, all the way up. All the way up. And you can hear these weird clicking sounds. I think they're really important for the sound, because without them, it's just a plain, normal, future bass chord sound. But with the noise oscillator, it gets kind of percussion-like interesting. Alright, now next up, filter. I chose the LN12, that's a low pass with a notch filter, as far as I know. The cutoff is around 20 Hertz, and the LFO goes up 38 or 39. And drive the same all the way down as with the levels of our oscillators. Drive all the way down, LFO it up by 55. Lots of resonance, around 60%. Frequency all the way up, and now it just takes away all the high frequencies. So it sounds more like a wobble now, like whoop, whoop, whoop. That's it for the main sound. Now we go into the effects panel. At first, distortion. I do this pretty often. I turn the distortion module to bandpass, to pre, and then I just look for frequencies that sound really cool if you emphasize them, and then I just drive these ones. Drive is set to 71%, LFO it all the way up, mix is set to 44, LFO it all the way up, it's diode distortion, and now it's more raw. So next up is more of an ear candy thing, Reverb Automation. So I just took a new LFO, it's a basic shape, put it on the mix, just a little bit, and then I just play around with the settings until it sounds good to my ears. So let's take a listen with that. It's very subtle, but when we put OTT on it later, you will really hear it. Makes a big difference in the end. Okay, next up is the EQ. And this one is pretty basic for me too, because I do that pretty often. Like a low cut. Set right here, frequency is around 100 Hertz, and yeah, the LFO is pushing it up, but only a bit, so it gets even more wobbly, kind of, and it gets really clean in the low end, so there's no bass, so I can just add some sub later on. Lots of Q, so you get this little bump and can push the mids even higher. And then the second band is set to a bell curve, and is doing some high frequency stuff. I don't really know why I did it. Yeah, it's set really high and it's just going down -14. Some Q. I think it's adding some sparkle, probably. So last one is the filter, and it's set to Flanger Plus. I do a lot of sound designing with the Flanger filters from Serum, because they sound kind of weird, especially if you have sounds that sound so clean and especially in future bass kind of sounds. I think it's really hard to get interesting sounds just by normal filtering. But the flanger filters, they often sound disharmonic or strange. So I took just this one, like basic settings, around 325 hertz, lots of resonance, 51, a bit of drive, and half mix. If I turn it all the way up, it sounds really fucked. That's too much, but it just adds some upper harmonics for your sound, so it gets more chord-like. So that's it for Serum now. Next up is our effects chain. First one, OTT, set to 72, and I pushed the highs. And then I did a pretty weird Pro Q setting. I think I was just playing around. I was just pushing frequencies, taking them out, and was just looking for frequencies that sound good when I take them out or when I push them. So I cleaned out the mids here around 120 and 300, like really hard, around minus 10 dB. A little push around 60, nobody knows why, and push here. Lots of like minus 11 dB. That's pretty hard. Around 3,000, and a little push in the highs. I don't know why I did it, but it sounded good. So next up is CQ. I just added some more high frequencies there, and took out some lows. Next up, Saturn, just for some basic saturation. I think it's even a preset I used, and just changed the drive, I guess, a little bit. To make it a bit more raw. More OTTing, but this time only 29%. The rest is default. And the last one is Serum effects with some more reverb automation. Now this one is pretty important for the sound in context of the song. As you can see, the mix is all the way down, but I put some automation lanes in there and just played around with it. So in the end I came up with these automations. They sounded kind of cool to me, especially in the beginning of the sound. I mostly use this kind of automation to simulate some kind of reverse reverb style. You can also do that with audio. You can just bounce it out, put reverb on it, reverse it, whatever. But I think you can get that effect pretty easy if you just automate some reverb in the middle of the sound. So especially in this part here, sounds like it's kind of reversed in the background. And now last one, just some kickstart, because I'm really lazy at sidechaining. And our sound is done. One thing I just came around when I was playing around with the sound is, to make it even more interesting, you can use some FMing. Just a bit of FM here, and oscillator B is turned on. It's a sine wave, it's 2 octaves up. Level is down. We just use it for FM, and then just turn the FM up. Bit more metallic. So that's it. Have fun playing around with the sound, and yeah, listen to our EP. It's really good, and see you next time.
Recreation.